Hello, my name is Kim Sammons, and I'm the Kids Director here at Eagles Nest Ministries. Pastor Bob is getting a much-deserved break, so the staff here at Eagles Nest wanted to take this opportunity to share on a topic that has been behind much of our study and teaching recently. When we read of Jesus and his ministry, we hear him announce a new covenant, and we mistakenly sometimes think he's giving us permission to not study or pay attention to the old covenant. Jesus was in fact doing the exact opposite. He was completing the covenantal relationship and affirming the Old Testament. Countless times in the New Testament, Jesus quotes powerful words from the Old Testament. When he's using a direct quote, it's as if he's taking out his highlighter and saying, "Remember this part because it's really good." The book that Jesus most often quoted from was the book of Psalms. Tonight, we're going to focus on one specific place in Matthew 27, where Jesus quotes the words of David from Psalm 22. In Matthew 27:46, we find Jesus literally dying on the cross as he speaks these words, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Now, putting this in context, we know that Jesus has been severely beaten, almost to death, then forced to carry his own cross, taunted and made fun of by masses of people. It's safe to say that before he uttered these words, he had endured excruciating physical pain that none of us are ever likely to experience. An important point here that could be easily missed is the emotional pain Jesus was experiencing. It was most likely greater even than the agony of his fleshly pain. I can't begin to imagine what it would feel like to have crowds of people celebrating your pain and anticipating your death as they taunted you to save yourself. This people pleaser shudders at the mere thought of disappointing someone. So this scenario, what Christ suffered, is unimaginable. As he's allowing himself to feel the depths of this despair, he says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" These words harken back to Psalm 22:1, where David says, God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me from the words of my groaning? Now, David was a man who found himself in season after season of extreme danger and was often battling for his very life. Daily, David navigated attacks not only from enemies, but also from close family members. I imagine there must have been days when David was totally baffled that as God's anointed one, he found himself continually in battle after battle. So we find both men in situations where they were distraught and looking for answers. When he highlighted David's words from the Psalms, Jesus wanted every believer to see and understand that both his and David's trials teaches us that the only way to deal with that kind of pain is to allow yourself to feel the pain so you can move to the other side of it with your faith intact. In the world we live today, we are all acutely aware that we can be going along, enjoying life one minute, and in an instant, our world can get flipped upside down. So what comfort do Jesus and David's words offer us? Jesus reminded us of David's words for a very specific purpose. He wanted us to know emphatically that both he and David experienced moments of utter despair while here on earth. But in these moments of agony, neither of them forgot that they were in a relationship with God. How do we know that? Because both of these men cried out, my Father. Not some unknown man, but my Father. This small world tells us that both Jesus and David remained connected to God, even though they were feeling incredibly alone and forsaken. But this one little word, my, they acknowledged that though they felt abandoned, they chose to believe that God was still who the word said he was, no matter what their circumstances. Today, we believers can take an enormous amount of comfort from this. If David, God's chosen one, and Jesus, the promised Messiah, each suffered, then we are also called to seasons of suffering. We can also be certain, just as the two of them were, that God has a plan for these seasons. We have a choice, just as David and Jesus did. We can allow the pain of these trials to take us to a place of misery and eventually unbelief. Or we can choose to acknowledge the pain, experience the pain, and finally release the pain back to our Father. When Jesus spoke these words as some of his last on earth, He was in essence using a megaphone to shout a message to us. What is that message? He wants us to know with absolutely certainty that as God's chosen ones, we have the opportunity to know God to the depths of His being when we are in our darkest trials, because He will always be on the other side of it. If this lesson has helped you, please share it with a friend, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or check out our Sunday Morning Live podcast on either Apple or Spotify. If you would like to partner with us as we take God's Word to God's world, you can do so by going to our website and clicking the How to Give tab. God bless, and we hope to see you next week.